2021 annual based on the 2021 annual report that we submitted to the city on March 15th, our rate of return in King City was 10.9%. And so based on that CPI calculation, which is a part of code, this would call for a 4.52% rate increase according to the West CPI-U index, which is the one that we referenced there. And this would be an increase of $1.20 per month for 32-gallon residential customers, which is the most common size used for residential customers. And then for a commercial customer with a 2-yard container, it's an increase of $5.87 per month. The second proposal before you is related to food scraps collection for residential customers. We would like to expand our service offerings to customers so they can compost their food scraps along with their yard debris. Several cities in the metro region have implemented this program, and many others are looking to start this coming year. And so we'd like to make the same change in King City. This would be an additional rate increase, but because there is higher cost to process the material. If there's food in the yard debris, we have to bring it to a different facility that is a further distance because there are less facilities that have the proper permits to be able to handle these materials mixed together. So in King City, this would equate to an increase of an additional 33 cents per month for each customer. And this would only be applied to the customers that choose to have yard debris service. So in King City, there's a model where some customers have yard debris service and some choose not to for a lower rate. So that additional 33 cents would only be applied to those who do subscribe to the yard debris service. And if the council approves this change, we would start this expanded service offering on January 1st of 2023 as well. I'm going to stop there just because that's a lot of information related to standard services and see if there are any questions about any of that before I go on to the third item.
Just if I could, with the food scraps and such, is there an alternative for those who don't subscribe to the yard waste option? Many of us in King City do not have yards that are our responsibility, so we don't have yard waste, but we do have food waste.
So there would not be an alternative, but you could still subscribe to the additional cart that you could put your food scraps into. You don't have to also put, yard trimmings and things like that in it, but you could subscribe to that additional service to be able to compost your food scraps.
So if we did that, we would have to pay the yard waste fee plus well, everyone I guess will pay the extra 33 cents, but we would then have to pay for the yard debris waste bin.
I'm sorry, it was a little bit hard to hear the question.
All right, then we would then have to pay for the yard debris waste bin. We don't already have it to participate in the food waste.
Yes, that's correct, because all of the material that is within those carts, whether it's just yard debris, just food, or a mixture of the both, would go into the same truck to the same facility. So you would have to pay for the entire service, even if you're only putting food scraps in that cart.
Hi, Kristen. This is Jamie Fender. I appreciate you being with us tonight, and I'm just getting over a pretty significant bout of COVID, and so I'm at home and not on camera, so I apologize for all of that. One of the things is that we have a few city councilors who maybe have not been involved in the past several years in doing CPI. So I just, Mike, I wanted to throw out there that is everyone clear on how the rate increases are calculated and where that agreement comes? I just want to make sure that we have some institutional knowledge going, between some of us, but I want to make sure that everyone is kind of clear. So I throw that out there, and thanks for being with us tonight.
More? Just to respond, Mayor Fender, unfortunately, Mike just stepped out for a moment, so he could not speak to that. But Kristen, maybe if you wanted to just give a brief overview of how that CPI is.
Sure. Sure. So we worked with council in 2018 to modify the code related to our franchise agreement. And so we've always turned in an annual report to the city, which is due March 15th to cover the previous calendar year. So March 15th of 2022, we turned in an annual report that covered 2021. And that report is very extensive, and it is a full accounting of all of our expenses and revenue associated with providing services in King City. So as you may know, we provide services to more than one jurisdiction, but we allocate our costs to each jurisdiction individually. So the report we turn into King City is an accounting of our cost of service and revenue for King City. And then the CPI methodology that is now in code calls for the goal is to have a rate of return between 8 and 12% with a target of 10. So if we come in the 10% range, which we did for the 2021 calendar year, then it calls for just a straight application of the CPI, which for the period of time we look at, it's that 4.52% that I mentioned earlier. If we come in the higher end of that range, between 11 and 12%, then it would be 75% of the CPI that would be applied. And then if we fall in the lower range between 8 and 9%, then it would be 1.25% of the CPI. So because we fell around 10, it calls for just a straight application of the CPI, which is what we are proposing based on that methodology and that code. So that's kind of in a nutshell how that works, and I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions if there are any.
Yeah, thanks for that. I looked at it and I kind of figured right about where it was, but thank you for the clarification.
Hi, Kristen. This is Kate Moore. I'm online. I hope I didn't cut anybody off. I can kind of hear. Am I good to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Hi, Kristen. I have a few more questions about the food debris. So if I'm reading this correctly and understanding correctly, we would literally put our compost in with grass clippings, branches, all the things that go in our yard debris cart?
Yes, that's correct. So it's all food waste. So no, compostable cups or plates or things like that, but truly the food scraps. So if you have, something that's gone bad in your fridge, or, the eggshells from cracking open the eggs, those sort of food scraps, you can even put chicken bones and meat bones in there as well.
Okay. And then I think our yard debris might only be picked up every 2 weeks. I don't know if is that true for the whole city of King City?
Yes.
Okay, so would anyone look at an option? Like I'm just picturing in the summer, especially food scraps sitting in a heated container that might not be super appealing. Are there problems with odor or animals getting into those? Because can you speak to that at all?
Sure. So we do provide food scraps collection in a couple of jurisdictions. One that has weekly service, and then the city of Hillsborough started in February of 2020 providing food scraps in the yard debris, but they did leave their service at every other week. So we have kind of a good test case of the last 2.5 years, I guess, of providing that service there. And really, there haven't been issues with it. I know personally I can put food scraps in my cart at my home, and what I do in the summer months when I don't have a lot of grass clippings and things like that on the bottom because my lawn is dead, I choose to put my food scraps within a paper bag before I drop it in the cart, because the paper can be part of the composting program, and that way it just helps the material come out with the bag rather than kind of congeal in the bottom, which it can do in the warmer weather. But really, from an odor perspective, as long as the lid is closed, there aren't issues with critters getting in there or significant odors. I mean, I definitely smell it when I open the lid to put something new in it, but it's not, I don't notice it like when I walk out to my car and it's sitting in my driveway.
Thank you. So in the materials you provided, I also see something about a kitchen pails. And would that still necessitate a yard debris subscription? Like would the items from the kitchen pails then get dumped in a yard debris cart, or is that something where residents without yard debris could actually put a pail out? don't know how it works.
Yeah, so the pails are not a current part of this proposal, but we wanted to make sure that that was out there for council consideration in case that's something that you wanted to do. So the pails are not designed for us to collect. They are designed to store the food in your kitchen and then kind of have that container to bring the material out to your cart when you want to do so. Some of the jurisdictions that we work with have used those to do kind of the initial rollout and education material and to provide that resource for customers to have in their kitchen. City of Tigard recently approved this program to start January 1st, and they opted not to go forward with the pails. It is an additional cost, and I think there's mixed feelings on how successful those are in terms of use. I know when I moved into my home where I could do food scraps, I was after they rolled out the program, and so I bought one online and it sat under my sink and I've never used it because I don't like the idea of it sitting in there and potentially ants getting into it and all of those things. So I just take the food right out to my cart when I have it. So that's certainly something we could explore if council was interested in that and come back with a proposal on that piece. It's not part of our current proposal, and to answer your specific question, they can't be picked up by our drivers. It's just to bring material out to the cart.
Thank you. I think this is my last question. Well, actually, kind of two more. The first would be, are there different sizes of yard debris carts?
Currently, the service is only provided in one size, and that's pretty standard for the region, to just have the one 65-gallon cart for yard debris, but that's certainly something we could explore if there was an interest in that. There is an additional cost overall in the system to kind of maintain two separate sets of inventory. When we rolled out the automated recycling in King City several years ago, we have the two different sizes of carts, and we ordered a lot of them thinking there'd be a huge demand for them, and honestly most of them are still sitting in our yard almost 10 years later. So there is some risk involved in doing that and creating a cost in the system that might not be used, but that's certainly something we could explore.
Okay.
And then the other note I just wanted, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, related to the every other week service, we also do offer a service that if customers need their carts cleaned, we can do that for up to once a year for free. So if it does get to the point that there's odors in there that can't be taken care of by rinsing it out yourself, we're happy to swap carts out for people as well.
Thank you. I have taken advantage of that before. I've needed that. So I guess the last kind of outside of the box question would be if you know of any like community bins where I'm thinking of, like one of our counselors mentioned, they live in a place where they don't need a yard debris cart. Does anyone ever get together and share a yard debris cart? Is that something you've seen done, or?
I definitely know of situations where, next door neighbors might share an extra yard debris cart and, work that out between themselves. It is difficult for us to do any sort of service sharing unless people are arranging that on their own, mainly because, if we're billing multiple people separately and then maybe 2 of the 5 don't pay the bill, are we supposed to keep picking it up? So that can get a little bit complicated. But certainly customers can, explore with their friends and neighbors sharing those services.
Okay. I think those are all my questions. Thank you so much.
This is Jamie, is Mike back in the room?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do we have any kind of sense or feedback from the city's perspective about what people are interested in or asking for as far as additional services on our end? And then I guess, Kristen, the same question to you, what are you hearing back from the end user customers in King City?
In the Edgewater, is this working? Yeah, so in the Edgewater community, most of the yard debris is handled through the HOA. And so in those circumstances, you have fewer needs and desires for the yard debris bin. In Old King City, where you still have the elderly population that's manning their own yards and doing gardening and things of that nature, I think there's a desire to have the yard debris to a certain extent. So I think there's more demand in the older portions of King City, more than there is in the newer portions of King City off to the western side. That being said, there's interest in the recycling program. So the recycling option that Pride has proposed under the proposal 2 in the latter half of their letter, there's a desire, I believe, throughout the community for those services. I think we saw some of that with the Ridwell proposals. But as Councilor Moore was pointing out, there's not a lot of need for those yard debris bins in Edgewater. But we have the HOA president here, Mr. Casanova, is in the audience and might be able to address this a little more thoroughly than I can.
So the yard debris is by individuals. It's not a community service we have.
Right, but it's not mandatory, right?
No.
Yeah, so what Mr. Casanova is saying is that the yard debris is individual and it's not a mandatory pickup.
Right, and I think for Edgewater, right? All right, you know, those that have backyards, we have to have a yard bin. I mean, I personally certainly like the idea of giving our residents options. I did use, you know, when I lived in Multnomah County, we did have the kitchen scrap bin, and I agree, it was great at first, and then it became cumbersome and sticky and kind of gross, but I like the fact that we could pass on those scraps, you know, if it's another option for those who have a bin, you know. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
I have a question.
To be honest, you're trying to save on, sorry to interrupt, Katie,
Sorry.
probably. Go ahead.
Is the
Councilor Moore, go ahead.
is the 33-cent increase only for the yard debris bins? Or would it be an increase for people who do not have yard debris bins as well?
It would only be applied to the customers that subscribe to the yard debris service. So for those that currently or in the future continue to opt out of the yard debris, they would not pay that additional 33. The $1.20 increase we're talking about for the CPI would go across the board to everybody.
Right.
And then the additional 33 cents would only be for those who subscribe to yard debris.
Okay, well, shoot, that I would love to pay 33 cents to put all my food scraps in my yard debris bin. Thank you.
And if I could go back and answer the mayor's question as well about what we hear from customers. I don't have hard data on, you know, King City customers specifically, but I can tell you that anecdotally, the requests that we hear the most from our customers on services they'd like to have and don't are that they would like to be able to compost their food scraps. But I can't speak to, you know, how many of those people we hear from are specifically King City residents.
Well, I appreciate that. I certainly am one of those people. So, you know, but I try hard not to make you know, decisions that solely benefit my own interests, right? But I think, you know, for those that are inclined to do a lot of recycling and a lot, you know, it's certainly something that I think most people want to try to get better at and do. So thank you.
I just have one quick question for you, and that is there anything in terms of food scrap that you would not want put into the container?
As long as it is food, it is allowed. So there's no concerns about, you know, meat or dairy or anything like that. The only issue that sometimes customers can get confused about is the compostable products. So like the cups, the forks, the, you know, plastic bags that are listed as compostable. Those materials, the compost facilities don't accept because they don't break down in their process. And then you buy compost and you still have half a fork in it. Those materials that kind of are labeled as compostable aren't acceptable, but all food is acceptable. And no liquids either. So no, you know, cooking oil or grease or things like that.
So like steak bones are fine?
Yes.
So I have a question. You said we could use like paper bags. Could we use the green, food waste bags?
We really encourage not to do that, even though they are labeled as compostable. The processors that take the material don't want that material. Ultimately, if you're spending the money on that bag, they're going to try to screen that bag out and not actually compost it. So it's really better if you can use newspaper, or some people even, a paper bag, or some people line their cart with newspaper as well as an organic option of material that is more acceptable in the compost process. So 2 of the cities we work with have, approved certain certified compostable plastic bags, but ultimately the processors don't want that material and are going to try and get it out, and it's just going to be thrown away. So.
Are there any other questions before we, Councilor Moore?
Hi, I would love to hear more about Recycle Plus. What would
Yes,
that look like for me? If we pass it and I want to sign up today, how does it change my life? What does it look like for me?
Yeah, so that is a perfect segue to our third item, if there are no more questions about the food scraps program. So I will dive into that, and somebody can stop me if they have a question about the other things that are on the table. So those of you that were on council a few months ago, I think there's a couple of new people since I was last here. I did come before council last spring to talk about a program that we were working on getting going. And I'm sorry, there's a light flashing above my head, and I don't know. I think a light bulb is going out. Hopefully that's not too distracting for you. It is for me. But we were in the process of creating a new program with Washington County. And so we kind of gave a little teaser to King City Council and said that we would be back to talk about rolling out that program officially. So we are here to do that. So it is called Recycle Plus. And we have started this program in unincorporated Washington County already. We started providing the service July 1st, so it's still relatively new, but we do have customers signed up, and we've done some collection for those customers as well. So it is an optional service. So only customers who are interested in this service would need to sign up and pay for it. It's not charged to anybody who chooses not to participate. This program would provide the opportunity for community members to recycle materials that are not included in the standard curbside recycling program. And there are 4 materials that are a part of the program today, and we will continue to look for opportunities to add materials when we have markets to do so. So the 4 materials that are part of the program today are number 1, PET clamshell plastics. So that's kind of a wonky term, but it is for basically like if it looks like a clamshell, it's hinged on one side. Those are the kind of containers that your berries come in at the grocery store, for example, some to-go containers. There are clamshells that are not number 1s, and those would not be part of the program. So it's clear number 1 clamshells only. And then film plastics, which are materials like grocery bags, the plastic wrap around your toilet paper, the produce bag you put your apples in at the grocery store, anything that is stretchy and filmy like that. Bubble wrap, the white and blue Amazon packaging that are kind of the foamy or bubble wrap type materials, those would all be accepted. Textiles, so that would be like clothing, towels, sheets. It's not designed for materials that are still high quality that could be donated. It's designed for materials that, after you've downcycled your towel to be the thing you dry your car with, to then, the rag in your garage, and now it's got so many holes in it, you want to get rid of it. That's the kind of material we're talking about for the textiles. And then the 4th item is compact fluorescent light bulbs. So the way the service works is residential customers who sign up will receive a 20-gallon purple bin. So it's similar to the red bin that customers use for glass. The only difference is it is purple and it has a lid. So the material does need to be kept dry, which is why the bin has a lid. And we provide plastic bags for each material that we would put in the bin at time of delivery. And then every time we take a full bag of material, we drop an empty plastic bag to go with it. I know it sounds counterintuitive to be providing plastic bags, but all of those plastic bags will be recycled as part of the film plastic program. So that's the best way to keep each material segregated within the bin. Customers who participate would be charged a base fee of $2.50 per month. And then they would pay for pickups as needed at $9.25 each. So this service would be set up where it could be as frequent as your glass service, which is every other week, because it's the same truck that's going to be picking up glass, that will have separate compartments for these materials. So it's the same truck already traveling down your road. We're not adding more vehicles to the road. And then customers would just need to schedule either through the online form or calling us anytime they needed a pickup. If there's no pickup in any given month, the only charge that a customer would see would be that $2.50 base fee. Washington County did some surveying around this to kind of figure out how often people really needed the service. And most people said they would need it once every 1 to 3 months. That was kind of the most common answer. So most people are going to wait until they fill that bin to make it worth it to pay that $9 fee. And it's going to take a little while to do that. So, and you don't have to fill it with all 4 materials. If all you have is clamshells or all you have is film, or you have a mixture of 2 and not the other 2, that's fine. You don't have to have every single material. The service can be canceled at any time. There's no long-term subscription required. And then we also recently have turned on the clamshells and the film plastic at our recycling depot in Sherwood, and they can be dropped off there at no charge also, along with a lot of other things we take at the depot. So that remains a low cost or no cost option for community members that might not have the extra income to pay for the service to come to their home. And for this particular service, because we have already started it in Washington County, we already have the bins, we already have our educational materials created, we could start this prior to January 1st. We would just need a little bit of time to get the word out to residents if council approved this. So we could probably start it, within the next 30 days. So if we want to make a nice clean, first of the month, we could say September 1st, but ultimately we could start it August 1st. So that's the rundown, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question with this. With the presentations that we had with Ridwell previously, they went through where the materials go after pickup. With this program, where are those clamshells ending up being processed, and where are the materials going? Because are they processed on site, or are they being processed by other companies that reuse them in different ways?
So the film plastics we will take back to our facility in Sherwood, and we will bale them, and then we're working with Trex Decking to take that material and turn it into composite plastic decking. And they're a longtime recycler of this material, so they're well established, and it's a strong market for that material. The clamshells, we're working with one of our processors that handles our commingled recycling, Far West Recycling out of Hillsboro, and they will be the aggregator for that material. So all the haulers that participate will bring the material to them, and then they have developed a relationship with a company called Green Impact Plastics, who will take those materials. And my understanding is, so number one, PET clamshell, number one is the same plastic that like a water bottle is made from, but it's just a lower quality of the PET, which is why it's not as easy to recycle. So my understanding is that material is pelletized and is mixed in with the higher quality water bottle type PET plastic, and then used to make the same products that those other PET materials are turned into. Textiles go to a company in Northeast Portland that turns them into rags and compact fluorescent light bulbs. We've accepted those at our depot for a very long time, and so we already have a market for those, and it is Universal Recycling Technologies in Clackamas County who handles all of that and responsibly recycles them. I can't speak to the details of how they do that because it's outside of my wheelhouse, but they've been taking our bulbs for a long time.
Yeah, I have a question. So would a customer just put it out on their glass day and then you keep track to charge the extra charge, or how is that, or would the customer have to contact you and say, oh, I want to put my bin out?
Yeah, we would need to receive a heads up that the customer needed that pickup. So we have a form on our website that customers can submit, or they can call us or email us. Any of those 3 ways it can be scheduled.
That's the only part that makes me nervous, as I am quite forgetful about things like that. But it's not, stinky garbage, so I can wait a week if I needed, or wait 2 weeks if I needed to.
Yeah, and the other way that can be a good reminder for that is Washington County has the Garbage and Recycling Day app that they have that customers can utilize. We provide them all of our routing information, and customers can utilize that for reminders. And they have a way to incorporate any Recycle Plus customers into that. So you can set up reminders based on your own preferences, based on when your collection days are. And so you can set, I believe you can set whatever day and time. So like if your garbage day is Monday, you want to be reminded Friday morning at 8, like, hey, don't forget to put your garbage out, or you can do it on Sunday. But you could set up those sorts of reminders to kind of trigger the, oh, I need to schedule a pickup. Usually people use it so they don't forget to bring their carts out, but you can manage that how it may work best for you. And we really tried to design the program so customers could maximize the pricing structure. So again, if people wait until they schedule the bin until it's full, you know, I've started collecting these materials at my home over the last couple of weeks since we turned it on at the depot, and I don't even have a half of a regular standard kitchen size garbage bag filled, and I'm just putting foam plastic and clamshells in there. So it takes some time to collect enough materials, I think, to make it worth it. And so that's part of why we designed the program to be on call and to have the charge associated with the pickup, because it encourages people to only schedule a pickup when they really need it, rather than put a bin out with, you know, one bulb in the bottom of it. So trying to make the service as efficient as possible to keep costs low for everybody.
Follow up to what you were just talking about for your own use of the drop-off, the no-cost drop-off at your facility. Are you commingling them at your own home before you take them into the facility, or do they have to be separated out in different bags before someone could bring them to the depot for no cost?
They do have to be separated out. So the foam plastic would go in one container, and then the number one clamshells go in another. So personally, I'm putting them in one bag at home just because I don't want to have multiple little containers. But I know that I have to segregate them when I bring them into work.
So how far in advance will we have to schedule pickup? Is it, our pickup day is Monday, so can we do it Sunday, or would it have to be like Friday?
Yeah, one business day. So because King City does fall on a Monday, we'd need to know before close of business on Friday.
Any of our counselors that are attending online have any questions? Doesn't appear so. Thank you, Kristen, very much for the presentation and for going through this. Did you want to present any more with regards to some of the rate tables that you also provided in your presentation?
I don't have any specific things to point out in there. It's pretty straightforward with just the percentage that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to dive into those details.
Either here or online have any questions? Thank you very much, Kristen. We really appreciate the presentation, and we will discuss further during the council meeting later this evening.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Other items that we need to go through with regards to the work session?
President Paulson, no, we do not have any other items, so that would basically conclude the work session at this point in time. We could adjourn the work session, take a short, brief break. There's pizza in the back, and I have some sodas I can bring out for anyone that wants them, and we'll reconvene at 6 p.m.
Okay, well, with that then, we are adjourned until 6 p.m. for the start of the council meeting.